Hello, if you are new, welcome in. If you are returning, welcome back. The one thing that I'm excited to do on this channel is to talk about my love of musical theater. Exposed to the world of Broadway and musical theater in 1989, I had already seen and really loved the movies Grease, The Wiz, Annie, Little Shop of Horrors, West Side Story, and of course, Hair. I was first exposed to Hair in 1987 from watching an episode of Laverne and Shirley, Season 8, Episode 22. Carmine decides to move to New York and try out for the musical Hair. I can't show the clip on here, apparently, but trust me, I really enjoyed seeing the Big Ragu singing Aquarius. Or by chance, I came across Hair, remembering that episode of Laverne and Shirley and how much I enjoyed that number. I decided to rent it, and this was not like any movie musical I've seen up until this point. So, getting back to me being really exposed to musical theater, by 1989, and having seen the movie musicals that I've seen up until that point, I just assumed the Broadway show was the same as the movie. To my surprise, how drastically different the Broadway show was to the movie. Hair, when I saw the stage show for the first time, it was unrecognizable to the movie I had become accustomed to. As I'm snowed in with 18 inches, I thought it would be fun to introduce a segment on my channel I'm calling From Stage to Screen. I'll take a musical, run it down, the storyline in detail from both the stage and the screen. I thought I would start with Hair as it's available free on YouTube with ads. So let's get started. Before we do, please hit that like and subscribe. Maybe drop a comment. Let me know what movie musical you'd like me to talk about. The story of Hair was conceived by James Rado and Jerome Ragney, two actors who met while performing in a show that closed after one night. James Rado, who had written several musicals as a student at the University of Maryland, he spent 2 years in the Navy after graduation, started a band called James Alexander and the Argyles. He will eventually move to New York City to pursue acting. Jerome Ragney attended Georgetown University and moved to New York City in 1964 to understudy in the Broadway production of Hamlet starring Richard Burton. In 1966, Ragney appeared in the musical Viet Rock by Megan Terry, and it inspired him to collaborate with Rado to create their own rock musical. The two had been writing songs together for years, but decided to formalize their efforts. When they had written 13 songs, they took them to producer Nat Shapiro, who was interested but knew the duo needed a composer. He introduced them to Canadian-born Galt MacDermot. In 1967, Joseph Papp was still building the Public Theater, but agreed to produce the musical at the new Off-Broadway house. It premiered October 17th, 1967, and ran for 6 weeks. During that run, a businessman and inspiring anti-war politician, Michael Butler, saw the show several times and worked with Papp to find another venue to continue the show. For 45 performances, the cast performed at the Cheetah Club at 53rd and Broadway, beginning in December. By January, however, the show had undergone many changes, including a new director, Tom O'Hargan, who was known for his experimental theater work, adding new songs including Aquarius and Let the Sunshine In, and a brief nude scene to end Act 1. A few Broadway houses passed on the show concerned it was inappropriate. Even Joseph Papp had to leave the production. Butler was steadfast and secured the Biltmore Theater, making Hair the first musical to transfer from off-Broadway to Broadway on April 29, 1968, with James Rado playing Claude and Jerome Ragney playing Berger. The original cast will also include Lynn Kellogg as Sheila Franklin, Lamont Washington as Hud, Steve Curry as Wolf, Sally Eaton as Jeannie, Shelley Plimpton as Chrissy. The cast will also feature folks who will go on to stardom, such as Melba Moore, Ben Vereen, Andre DeShields, Meatloaf, Donna Summer, and future Academy Award winner Diane Keaton. The stage show, as I'm reading from the original 1968 synopsis. The first thing the audience noticed was the set. There were no stage curtains. Everything on stage hung right out. Hair was performed on what's called a rake stage, a stage set at an angle. It was painted gray and printed in white on it, such phrases such as Dead Man's Curb and No Smoking. The set, designed by Robin Wagner, was placed mostly upstage to give us a lot of room to move around. Stage right stood a tower with a fire escape-like contraption. A stairway led to different levels, each of which had various props, an old bicycle horn and other cycling paraphernalia, a papier-mâché Santa Claus, a jukebox, etc. Hair never really had a starting point or traditional opening. At 8:30, the time printed on the tickets, the cast was dispersed throughout the theater in balconies, on ramps, climbing the catwalks in the orchestra, walking on the back of the seats, and even on stage. The idea was to create an immediate rapport with the audience. After all, the atmosphere is universal love. All during the warm-up, or vamp, one character, Claude, remains on stage, dressed in pants, polo shirt, and fur vest. He sits cross-legged, Indian style. Sorry, I'm reading this verbatim, 1968. If Hair had a protagonist or hero, Claude was it. Next in importance was Burger, Claude's best friend. The rest of the characters or tribe unraveled with the action of the play. As the audience trickles into the theater, the burning grill is ceremoniously set down in front of Claude, and at a musical cue, the cast freezes and then proceeds in slow motion to the stage. Burger, assisted by Sheila, a student protester, cuts a piece of Claude's hair and burns it as a sacrifice. The cast forms a large circle, breaks into Aquarius, heralding a new age, the dawning of Aquarius. Burger strips down to his briefs, wanders about the audience, and returns to sing Donna, a fast rock number about a 16-year-old virgin whom he misses. While singing, he swings out the audience on a rope like a hippie Tarzan. We then divide into groups to sing about various narcotics. As I'm still fairly new to this, I'm not sure what words will get me demonetized, so moving on. If you know the show, you know the song. Then, seemingly without transition, we form into different poses. The Madonna and Child, Christ on the Cross, while Wolf, another pal of Claude, sings as if it were a church hymn, Sodomy, a song about different sex acts that's considered dirty. HUD sings Colored Spade, listing the stereotypes people have labeled blacks, while three black girls tar, or rather mud, and feather Claude. While he is being washed clean of the mud and feathers, Claude sings Manchester, England. Then HUD, Wolf, and a new tribe member, Dion, sing a song about have-nots. Ain't got no. Sheila enters as if on horseback, and HUD hands her a poster. After her song, I Believe in Love, the protest rally begins with Sheila as leader, asking the cast, what do they want? The cast, peace. It becomes a chant. Peace, love, freedom now. Peace, love, freedom now. A trap door in the stage opens and pops out Jeannie, who sings Air, a song about air pollution. At the end of the song, Jeannie climbs out of the manhole to reveal she's pregnant by a crazy speed freak and is in love with Claude. The cast, as though in a classroom, sings Initials in a fanciful tune about LBJ took the IRT down to 4th Street, USA. When he got there, what did he see? The youth of America on LSD. And then Claude sings I Got Life, a wishful celebration of the life within us all. Burger makes a dramatic entrance by jumping from the tower. Burger tells us he's been expelled from school, sings Going Down, while three school principals with Hitler-like mustaches do a spoof on schools and education. Claude enters and we learn he's passed his army physical and is about to be drafted. A tourist couple come up from the audience, and when the woman asks why the long hair, Claude and Burger lead us into hair. The tourist lady, apparently beginning to see the light, sings My Conviction. When Berger makes some comment about her dress, she says she's not wearing one and flings her fur coat to reveal she's clad only in a pair of jockey shorts. She's a he in drag. After singing, Sheila, who digs Berger, gives him a yellow satin shirt, but he gets angry, rips up the shirt, and Sheila sings Easy to Be Hard about how cruel people can be to one another. As Claude tries to cheer up Sheila, Jeannie reemerges from her manhole cover, gives the audience on who's hung up on whom. Jeannie on Claude, Claude on Berger and Sheila, Sheila on Berger, Berger on everyone, and Wolf on Berger, though he says he's hung up on Mick Jagger. This followed by a spoof on American flag worship, Don't Put It Down, in which Wolf, Berger, and another tribe member pay mock tribute to the flag, which is actually bunting, folding it according to Army regulations. The cast descends into the audience supposedly on their way to a BN, but to wind up backstage for costume changes. Chrissy shows up and in one of the rare quiet moments in the show sings of her love for Frank Mills. The tinkling of the bells off stage for the BN to begin, the cast enters from the wings in colorful costumes, less hippie street gear, and more together as though everyone has dressed for the occasion. As we sing and dance to Hare Krishna, a table with a small grill is set up and some of the boys burn their draft cards. When it's Claude's turn, he refuses to burn his. Suddenly, everything stops. The entire stage is covered with a scrim, and while Claude sings Where Do I Go?, those of the cast who have decided to strip do so under the scrim. At the cue, the nudes stand up, beads, flower, freedom, happiness is dimmed in lights. Sirens are heard in the distance, getting progressively louder. All the theater lights are cut, the cast exits, and the house lights flash back onto an empty stage. Suddenly, what appears to be two policemen announce that everyone in the theater is under arrest. The audience is informed that it's intermission. HUD walks onto a dark stage carrying a wind-up Victoria. Chrissy listens to an old Kate Smith recording, White Cliffs off Dover. A spotlight picks up 4 cast members dressed in mirrored costumes. They begin to sing Electric Blues as the rest of the cast enters flashing flashlights. Then the whole stage, cast, and music go wild under a multitude of strobe lights. Once again, the stage is darkened for Oh Great God of Power, a spoof on Con Ed. Claude roars up from the audience on a motorcycle dressed in a gorilla costume, growling at the audience and cast. He takes off the gorilla head to reveal who he is and tells us he just returned from the induction center. Everyone tries to make a joke out of it. Berger and another guy create a mock scene of what happened to Claude at the draft board. Claude gives Wolf a poster of Mick Jagger as Wolf tells us how he's hung up on the entertainer. Three white girls sing Black Boys about their preference for black men, which is followed by three black girls in a red sequins dress and blonde fright wig who sing about white boys. A number is a spoof on the Supremes. Berger hands out joints to the cast and everyone turns on. The stage lights are dimmed and the cast sings Walking in Space about tripping on drugs. Claude's trip begins. Under dimmed lights, five guys do an army number. The lights come up. Berger, now George Washington, in powdered wig and robe, and followed by members of his army, all girls, is ordered to retreat. He rides off stage. And for Native American, Tonto, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and Little Beaver shoot down the army with bows and arrows, but General Grant in rebel uniform appears, resurrect the army, which consists of Abraham Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth, Calvin Coolidge, Clark Gable, Scarlett O'Hara, Teddy Roosevelt, and General Custer. Lincoln is the only one in costume. He's wearing a fine velvet jacket, red, white, and blue stockings, and a raggedy top hat. His hair is also braided with white ribbons. They dance a minuet and are attacked by three African witch doctors. The head witch doctor, played by HUD, has a confrontation with Lincoln. Then the three doctors break into a song about freedom and emancipation, after which Lincoln recites a mock Gettysburg Address. The trio sings Happy Birthday, A.B. Baby. The cast sings 3500, a surrealistic anti-war song. The song is whispered, then builds to a pitch, finally yelled in a freakout. Meanwhile, two members of the tribe sings What a Piece of Work is Man, a verse from Shakespeare set to music. Still singing, they descend from the tower and walk around the bodies on stage. The song ends. The cast sits up as if awakening from a dream. Claude's trip is over. Sheila, trying to escape the reality of Claude's induction, sings Good Morning Starshine. The cast says goodbye to Claude. An army sergeant is waiting as Claude backs off stage singing Ain't Got No. The cast re-enters from all sides, playing instruments, garbage cans, etc., which builds in rhythm and intensity as we go into Hell No, We Won't Go. The cast freezes. Claude appears dressed in an army uniform with cropped hair. He sings the opening of the finale, The Flesh Failures, Let the Sun Shine In, but none of us can see or hear him. He then sings a reprise of Manchester, England, and is joined by a trio which sings Eyes Look Your Last. Finally, the whole cast comes to life and covers Claude's face with their hands, and he lies down slowly as if he's dying. We surround him. Sheila sings the first verse of The Flesh Failures, and we all line up at the foot of the stage to sing Let the Sun Shine In. Overall positive reaction from the critics, from Clive Barnes on. At the 1969 Tony Awards, it'll be up against 1776, Promises, Promises, and Zorba, with 1776 winning Best Musical. Hair closed July 1st, 1972, with 1,750 performances. There were regional and touring productions throughout the United States and playing in over 22 countries around the world. In 1976, a year after the end of the Vietnam War, Hollywood came calling. Milos Forman, the Academy Award-winning director of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, was chosen to turn Hair into a movie. Rado and Ragni submitted a draft of the script that was basically the stage show in its current form that was rejected by Forman. Michael Weller was hired to write the screenplay, which when Rado and Ragni read Weller's screenplay, they were not happy with the script. Director Forman and screenwriter Weller had to find a way to keep these characters grounded in reality while maintaining the spirit of the characters Ragni and Rado created. Having just watched the stage show and now immediately watching the movie, I am able to sense the difference in tone and how this movie had to be grounded in some sort of reality for it to work. John Savage was cast as Claude. Treat Williams was cast as Berger. Beverly D'Angelo was cast as Sheila. Annie Golden was cast as Jeannie. Dorsey Wright was cast as Hud. And Don Dacus was cast as Wolf. I first saw the movie Hair in 1987. I'll see my first stage production of Hair 15 years later. I had no idea the number of songs that were in the original show. With songs I Believe in Love, Going Down, What a Piece of Work Is Man, Dead End, The Bed, and Oh Great God of Power cut from the final draft of the script. Other songs like Air, My Conviction, A.B. Baby, and Frank Mills were recorded, but because director Milos Forman wanted to fit a 2-hour runtime, those numbers were left on the cutting room floor. Filming began October 11th, 1977, and took place throughout New York, the Mojave Desert in California, Fort Irwin National Training Center, and the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Filming wrapped May 1978 and will be released in theaters March 15th, 1979. What I'm attempting to do is watch this movie and write the synopsis and maybe even record bits at the same time. I will be talking about the differences in certain characters in real time as I'm writing this. Movie opens in Oklahoma with Claude being driven to the bus stop. In the stage show, Claude is the lead protagonist who is already a hippie living in New York. In the movie, Claude will be the naive fish out of water from Oklahoma protagonist fitting in amongst the hippies. As the bus is approaching into New York City, you're hearing the intro build and build, and one by one seeing the image of Wolf, Hud, Jeannie as Burger is reading his draft card that he will burn as they then walk away from two patrolmen on horseback. Cut to the action in Central Park as Aquarius is being sung. Claude is arriving inside the park as three ladies pass him on horseback. Claude looks to be mesmerized by one of them. The hippies, including Burger, Wolf, Hud, and Jeannie, dancing around the park as the song continues and then comes to an exciting conclusion. Wolf, walking alongside the three horseback riders, is asking for change as they ride off, ignoring him. Claude approaches Burger, Wolf, Hud, and Jeannie. They ask him for change. He gives them the change, and with that change, they rent a horse. On horseback, Wolf and Burger catches up with the three horseback riders. Wolf sings Sodomy. Their horse gets away. Claude is able to catch the horse. Burger insists that Claude continue riding as Burger sings Donna. Claude rides around trying to impress the three horseback riders. We will learn that one of which is Sheila. In the stage show, Sheila is a student protester who is in a relationship with Burger. In the movie, she comes from a rich family. Claude will have feelings for her. Claude informs Burger in the group that he's in town for a couple of days before being inducted into the army to go to Vietnam. Burger invites Claude to hang out with them. Later that night, they're smoking weed in Central Park. We learn that Jeannie is pregnant and the father is either Wolf, who is white, or Hud, who is black. Wolf teases Hud about the possibility of the baby coming out black. Hud sings Colored Spade. Seeing that Claude is very stoned, Burger messes with him, singing Manchester, England. After which, the whole tribe sings Ain't Got No. The next morning, Claude and Burger waking up in the park. Claude proceeds to move on. Burger notices a newspaper showing Sheila and what would be known as her coming out party in her wealthy society. Knowing how captivated Claude was by her, Burger convinces Claude to come with him, Wolf, Jeannie, and Hud to crash this party so that Claude can meet her. At this formal affair where everyone is in tuxedos and gowns, the five are certainly not blending in. Though Claude, who was already wearing a suit coat, will proceed to put his tie back on. When they are confronted, Burger tries to explain that Claude just wants to look at Sheila before going to fight in Vietnam. A furious Sheila's mother tells Burger, "You have a hell of a nerve, young man." Burger sings I Got Life. The police arrives. The five are arrested. Now in front of a judge, they are fined $50 or 30 days in jail. Only Claude has $50, his only $50. As he proceeds to post his bond, Burger convinces Claude to let him post bail instead so that he can get money to bail everyone out. A very hesitant Claude will let Burger be the one to bail out. While out, Burger will first approach Sheila and her brother for the money to no avail. While in jail, Wolf frantically resists getting his hair cut. He is now sitting with the prison psychologist. She asks if he's attracted to men. In the stage show, it's heavily implied he's at the very least bisexual, if not homosexual. The two times it was mentioned his attraction to Mick Jagger. His answer, I wouldn't kick Mick Jagger out of bed, but no, I'm not a homosexual. When she asked why doesn't he want to get his hair cut, we get the song Hair sung by Wolf and Hud in prison, intercut with Berger walking down the street singing about how much they love hair. Berger arrives at his parents' house to get the money. A tense argument will occur with his father, the whole generation divide that was occurring in 1968 about the war in Vietnam, or why don't you have a job, or why don't you get a haircut. In fact, I'll give you the money right now, no strings attached, if you cut your hair. Funny, as I'm writing this, it just occurred to me the foreshadowing of Berger and him cutting his hair later in the movie. Berger feeling bad for snapping at his mother because she kept asking him to let her wash his pants. When he goes to give his mother his pants to be washed, she gives him the money that is needed to bail everyone out. With everyone out of jail, they head back to Central Park where a be-in is happening, or a 1968 rave of sorts. Initials is playing while LSD is being distributed. Sheila catches up with Berger to apologize for her brother Steve. Meanwhile, Jeannie proposes that Claude marries her with the rationale, a pregnant Jeannie, they wouldn't send him to Vietnam. Somebody to Love and Electric Blues is playing in the background. Claude will take some LSD and in his hallucination imagine a very elaborate and psychedelic wedding of him and Sheila. Hare Krishna is playing. As I'm writing this and watching the movie in real time, I'm trying to find the words to sum everything up at the end. This scene is a great example. I love their use of imagery and what someone's drug-fueled hallucination would look like while still being grounded in some sort of reality. It's later in the night. Claude has now come down from tripping. The group now, including Sheila, catches up with Claude. Sheila asks Berger if he'd take her home. Berger tells her it's Claude's last night. She asks what plans they have. Berger says it's up to Claude. Claude says he wants to take Sheila home. Berger, Wolf, and Hud strip down and jump in the lake. Sheila changes her mind about wanting to go home or Claude taking her home. Claude joins the three in the lake with Sheila right behind. Sheila and Claude are talking when they discover the three are no longer in the lake and their clothes are gone. A naked Sheila will get in the cab. They all return with the clothes. Berger tells Claude they'll return Sheila's stuff tomorrow. Claude tells Berger he's going into the army tomorrow. Berger starts an argument with him about his decision to go to Vietnam. It's the next morning, walking down the street, Claude singing Where Do I Go?, making his way to the induction office. At the induction office, a buff black recruit comes in. You see three white women intercut with white Army recruiters singing Black Boys. A white recruit enters. You see three black women intercut with black Army recruiters singing White Boys. When talking about songs that were ultimately cut, I see no reason, as far as moving the story along, why this song was included. That being said, it's still a fun number, especially the White Boys part. I really loved this number the first time I saw it, and I was just watching this number and jamming out of my seat. Claude is in the Army now. You see a montage of his basic training while Walking in Space is playing. I especially love the verses that were sung by three Vietnamese girls, intercut with Claude looking up from his bunk, as if he's seeing and hearing these girls. Claude is writing letters, one of which is to Sheila. It's now several months later, wintertime. Sheila catches up with Burger, Wolf, Hud, and Jeannie with a letter Claude had written. He's stationed in Nevada. Burger, Wolf, Hud, and Jeannie decides to go see Claude in Nevada. We hear off screen, Lafayette, Lafayette. You see a black woman with a young child. Appears she wasn't given a name. She's only credited as Hud's fiance. It turns out it's a woman Hud was involved with and has a child by. She sees a pregnant Jeannie and asks if that's Hud's child. Hud keeps trying to send her away, and when he finally explodes and walks away, she sings Easy to Be Hard. As she's singing, Burger goes after Hud to get him to come back to her. Sheila helped Burger borrow her brother's car. Meanwhile, back at the base, someone is blasting 3500 from a barricaded base tower. The Army will come and shoot down the tower and speaker it was playing from with machine guns. Burger, Wolf, Jeannie, Sheila, Hud, and now Hud's fiance and child are driving to Nevada to see Claude singing Good Morning Starshine. When arriving at the base, they are refused entry. They come up with a plan to have Sheila find a soldier in uniform, get his uniform so that Burger can impersonate a soldier. This time, Burger will cut his hair. Arriving back at base, Burger planned to put Claude in the trunk to sneak him out. Claude refuses to get into the trunk. He doesn't want to go AWOL. Burger will switch places with Claude so that he can see Sheila. Back at the barracks, Claude's unit is being shipped off to Vietnam. Burger, who is impersonating Claude, is now being shipped off. The Flesh Failures is playing. By the time Claude returns, it's too late. Burger is now shipped off to Vietnam. We now see Claude, Sheila, Wolf, Jeannie, Hud, and his fiancée standing over Burger's grave, singing Let the Sunshine In. Cut to a rally at the National Mall in Washington, D.C., where the song continues to build and build, and then coming to a grand finale. The movie performed modestly at the box office with 15 million domestically, 38 million worldwide on an $11 million budget. This movie largely got great reviews. I love where these songs were placed in the movie to better serve the story. For example, Walking in Space while Claude was going through his basic training. Fantastic choreography by Twyla Tharp with great direction by Milos Forman and a great screenplay by Michael Weller. A great job was done expanding the stage show, keeping the characters and story grounded in reality. This was a lot of fun. I would like to continue doing this. Let me know what musical turned movie you'd like me to discuss in the comments. Until next time.